Hey friends, in this video we're gonna learn about a nice a pattern or a best practice to replace a multiple if-else condition in Java with potentially having a map. So this is into Java interview question that can be asked in your next interview. So let's see what the question is and how we can answer this question. So the very first thing is that we have been given a method called process payment, and what it does is like it accepts the prepare payment method argument, and as you can see it has like bunch of if else condition, and depending on the type of payment it processes the respective payment. So for a credit card type, it will process the credit card payment. For PayPal type, it will process the PayPal payment and so on. And if there is no payment, it will process the default payment. So that's the if-else condition um, that we have, and we need to utilize a map here and make it better in terms of like readability, in terms of execution and maintainability as well. So here's a question. Suppose you are refactoring a legacy Java code base with a long statement chain. So how would you approach replacing it with a map? What consideration would you make regarding the readability and maintainability? So we need to propose a solution with map, and we also have to comment on the readability and maintainability. So as we discuss about the if-else chain here, this is a pretty straightforward um, logic where we have like multiple conditions, if else, and so on. So now let's think about in future. If we had more payment method, this method will get bloated because there will be multiple if else if condition, and we keep adding those condition, and the logic for each condition would go into the curly braces, as we can see, and it will keep expanding. So eventually it will become very hard in terms of maintaining this logic, and it would be very easier to miss uh, any condition where we would have like potentially the error in the logic, or we can potentially introduce a bug. So that's the problem with having like multiple if else if condition, managing the execution flow based on the input argument. If we have like a few condition, this logic makes sense, but in cases where you would expect the logic to expand in future, this is no. So let's see how the map helps us here to decouple basically the execution and the registry of the payment method. So the very first thing that we would do is like we will create a map, and we would store two things. First is a string, and the second is runnable. So string basically here is hard-coded payment method. We can also have an enum here that would have like a descriptive constant, and the runnable would be basically the logic that we would like to execute for each payment method. And inside the constructor, we would initialize all these payment method map with the available payment method or supported payment method. So credit card, PayPal, bank transfer, they all are like registered here in the map, and they all have their own logic that gets called here in the runnable block. So we are registering each payment method with their respective logic, and in our client method, which is a process payment, we receive the argument payment method, and now all we have to do is basically go into the map, get the key, for the key get the runnable, and run that. So as we can see, payment method map get our default for the payment method, and then um, this one is the default one. So in case where we don't find any key, or in case where we don't find this key, um, this is the backup logic that will get executed. So get or default, if you don't know, it's helper method on the map that basically gives you the gets you the value for the defined key, and if the value is not present, it will execute the default value that you pass as a second parameter. And then we have a runnable here, so we can just execute that. Now that's the simple thing we can do to replace this multiple if-else condition to the map. Now how having a map helping us here in terms of like readability and maintainability. So first thing is that we are using here hard coded like a string. We can even either define them as a private static final, or we can also have like a enum that have like a descriptive names there, and we can maintain the list of payment method as a enum type. Now that's one thing. Second is we can also extract the complex logic as a separate helper method, or potentially we can put them in their own class files, because as the logic grows, we don't want to bloat our payment processor class, so we can extract them to into their own class, or at least in the method. So that would basically decouple the execution flow and then the actual logic. Now comes to the maintainability part. We have a centralized definition of all the payment method and their logic. So it's kind of think of this as like a registry where you are registering all your payment methods and their execution logic that should be executed. So that's a very good way of maintaining it in a centralized way, and it also avoids a duplicative flow, because in if else we have seen that we are making that multiple if else if call, and that also like bloats our method too much. Here we are decoupling our definition with the actual execution of the logic, so that's kinds of decouple the logic and also follows the open close principle. So our overall example for the refactor code would look like this, where we have a payment processor, we have a different payment method defined, as we also say that we can also define the enum for these, and then we have a map which is getting registered when we create an instance of payment processor and define all these supported payment method and their runnables, and each of these methods have their own definition, so we can put all the complex logic inside it, and when the logic become more complex, we can also put them in their own file. So that's how we can decouple our execution flow and then um, the logic processing. Now one more advantage here is that with the if else condition, you have to kind of like traverse each condition. So potentially your payment method type can fall to the um, like it can be the at the bottom of the execution flow. In a map, you could just go and find the logic right away because it's always a constant operation. So that's one of the advantage as well. I think it's not like super big advantage, but yeah, it still counts. So that's one of the benefit as well. So what's the conclusion here? Conclusion is that map is one of the approach where you could um, get away from the having like a multiple if else if condition, and like reduce your bloated method, have a concise way of registering your key value pair, and then execute your logic when you need them in a much decoupled and readable way. So yeah, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one.